time for our final Fiesta Junior action of the weekend. They've had quite a busy one this weekend with 4 races. This has been the 4th of them. And it looks as though, thankfully, all 15 are back out again, because I know that particularly Joseph Knight's had some problems, but there is car number 88 on the grid and ready to go. Of course, all the grid being set by the second fastest qualifying times from this morning's qualifying session for today's 2 races. So, for one final time, let's take you through the grid then for our 4th and final Fiesta Junior race. So, on pole, thanks to his second fastest time in qualifying, is Deegan Fairclough. I think it's the 4th time he started on pole today. Pole position for all 4 races, which is pretty impressive stuff for Deegan. James Wallace will start alongside him on the front row of the grid. Jensen Brickley once again is back in 3rd. And it's Alex Lee in 4th, Sid Smith in 5th, Jake Maynard starts in 6th this time on the 3rd row. And it's Jake Triggs and Albert Webster on row number 4. Rounding out the top 10 is James Pope, who starts one of his personal best positions in 9th. It's Harry Garman alongside him to round out the top 10. Daniel Lewis and Archie Handy come next on row 6. From George Davis and Joseph Knight will hope for some better fortunes in this race from 14th on the grid in row 7. And at the last but by no means least, Alex Sprange, who starts back in 15th on the grid. So once again, as they did with the last couple of races, they will have 2 green flag laps to get used to the conditions. As I mentioned earlier on, it's not the first time the juniors have had wet weather for their race. They did have it had wet weather at Croft after it was quite a deluge for them before the start of the race. Then it just chucked up so much spray. It gave us quite an incredible spectacle. In fact, one of the best pieces of car control I've ever seen in a junior race car, which is when Jensen Brickley went down towards the complex, sunny in and sunny out, went through Barcroft, the back end of the car started to drift around. He did a complete 360, gathered it back up again, didn't hit anyone or anything, lost a couple of positions on track, and kept going. And that was some incredible car control for a junior driver aged, 15 years old? It's incredible stuff from there. And these guys are really taking to these wet tyres. They have dedicated Goodyear wet tyres in order to handle the conditions. And that's done, of course, primarily for the reasons of safety, because to go out on something like an all-weather tyre, it's a bit too much of a risk. So to make sure they have maximum grip in these adverse conditions, they do have a dedicated junior wet tyre that they go out and race on. And it certainly does benefit them in terms of levels of grip, and at least safety, at least for those guys when they head out there to try and get as much quick lap time as possible. So out for their second formation lap they go. Very careful, 1 or 2 drivers weaving from side to side, particularly with the stiffly sprung nature of these 4 Fiestas, although for the wet conditions, I'm pretty confident all of them will be on a wet setup. The cars will be slightly more softly sprung in order to try and deal with some of the, give them a bit more grip on the front and rear end of the car, stop them sliding around or stop them from losing grip. You do soften everything up a little bit more to give you a bit more sort of grip and a bit more sort of contact with the road in the slightly more adverse conditions. So in terms of results so far, we've had 2 wins for Deegan Fairclough, the championship leader. 1 win for Jensen Brickley. Jensen's going to have to work hard from 3rd on the grid, but he was in a similar position in yesterday's second race of the day. He managed to pick his way through, but that was only after there was a great battle at the front of the field, like we possibly could be poised to have right now, between James Wallace again and Deegan Fairclough. And Deegan was in contention for the victory yet again in that second race, but then mechanically she dropped him out about midway through. So sadly, it was with James Wallace also kind of falling back a little bit behind Jensen Brickley, it meant that Jensen could cruise away to his 3rd win of the season after he took a double at Alton Park last time out a few weeks ago. There is George Davis. Davis family, of course, quite well invested in the Fiestas. They've got George here in the juniors, and of course his older sister Bryony, now racing in the senior championship in exactly the same car that she drove in the juniors. And that's actually quite a good advert, the most recent example of being a great advert for the fact that these Fiesta Junior cars can be used to move up into the senior level BRSCC Fiesta Championship. And simply all you need to do is for the same car, just simply change the tyres from the dedicated junior dry weather tyre to a dry weather slick for the Goodyears, and then the engine restrict that's on there to restrict the power for safety and for regulation reasons. Take that off, so it makes the full power it needs to underneath the senior championship regulations, and the car genuinely is ready to go for senior level racing. So that's exactly what Bryony Davis has done, and the example I'm sure a few of these drivers might well take up as well when they make the step up out of the Fiesta Juniors and hopefully into the senior ranks within the ST150 class. So the cars then make their way down the back straight, weaving from side to side, trying to get some heat into the tyres, into the brakes as much as possible, which might be a little bit a more difficult task given the fact that the circuit is quite saturated. But then again, the weather conditions are still relatively humid and higher temperature than you'd expect in these wet conditions. 17 degrees at the moment, so it's not exactly cold, but it's not hot either. But it's probably still humid out there and quite helping some of the track conditions here in terms of drying up the circuit a bit more. There's Joseph Knight. He's had a really tough weekend this weekend. He's had issues in qualifying, then in race one, didn't take part in the second race yesterday. He did go out earlier on today for the first race, for the third race of the weekend, first of today, and had to retire towards the end. And that sadly meant he's had to start from the back of the grid with issues. In fact, I think he came in, had some problems, fixed them, and went back out again to try and salvage some points. Because in that situation, all you can do is go back out there and try and get the car home and pick up a few more points, because depending on where you are in the championship, it can make the difference between finishing above or behind somebody, particularly if you're in the fight for the championship or the top places. So that's pretty crucial. So we're already seeing what these juniors can do in adverse weather conditions at Croft, as we mentioned earlier on. Let's see how they handle Snetterton. It's an equally fast circuit, long straights, long corners, and certainly some very tricky braking zones that the drivers have to cope with here, but they've certainly got their fill of track time this weekend. 4 races, including 2 qualifying sessions and a practice session. If they don't know Snetterton like the back of their hand, I'm not sure what will do. What will do it, but either way, cars are just forming up. That way, 1 or 2 cars a bit possibly out of position. I think probably James Pope might be a bit too far across to the left, so let's wait and see. Anyway, the green flag is flown at the back of the grid, so we're all set then for the final time this weekend in the wet weather conditions, the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship. Fairclough and Wallace again on the front row of the grid. Lights out, we're underway. It's a better start from the front row from Wallace this time. A cracking start I also noticed from the third and fourth row of the grid. From Albert Webster from the outside as they come down towards Ritchie's for the first time. So on the inside, Deegan Fairclough from pole. Outside on the front row, you can see him on the outside line, James Wallace. Alex Lee's also in there as well, alongside Jensen Brickley. They all turned in for the first time. There's Joseph Knight as they come back through the right-hander. Look at the wall of spray they have. You can hardly see anything exiting Ritchie's corner. A little wide there for Archie Handy on the inside line. Meanwhile, up the inside for second goes Jensen Brickley on James Wallace, running wide onto the more karting line, which they're probably used to. It's both Sid Smith and also Albert Webster. And Sid Smith runs wide onto the wet grass and the wet curbs on the outside, loses out to James Pope, but also Jake Maynard, and I think almost Harry Garman, who's quite used to slower levels of grip, being a former junior rallycross racer. So he's certainly trying to make a few more places. But Deegan Fairclough leads then. Jensen Brickley second, James Wallace third, Alex Lee in fourth position. No, it's Albert Webster around the outside of James Wallace, and trying to go up the inside to shoot the gap between Alex Lee and James Wallace, and that didn't really work for Albert Webster. James Wallace, who was going to be a front-running contender, I think, in this race, has had his race severely compromised. So Albert Webster continues on, but what about James Wallace? He has carried on. I'm not sure you'll appreciate that, though, but he's going to carry on regardless of the contact. So I think Albert Webster, I think he tried to look up the inside to get a pass on Alex Lee, or at least thought he could maybe shoot the gap between Alex Lee on the outside line and then brake later to go up the inside on James Wallace, but it just couldn't get it stopped in time, and then ended up sort of making contact with both of them. Just ahead, it looks like we've got Jake Maynard battling with James Pope and a couple of others there, as there's George Davis trying to make up some ground. Now down the back straight they go for the first time. Alex Lee, who was, of course, in amongst that as well, has dropped to fifth position, and that is James Pope. I've been told he's quite handy in the wet weather conditions, and and they weren't kidding. Look at that. He's up to fourth place. What a drive so far on this opening lap from James Pope. All that tuition from Ollie Turner's been helping. Oh, but I spoke too soon. He's gone right on the exit. Oh, goodness me, the commentator's curse. He runs wide on the exit. He still stayed in fourth position, so he's still there just behind Jake Maynard in third position now. Sid Smith is also running well in the wet weather. He's just behind James Lee, so that's fifth and sixth for them. Here goes Deegan Fairclough then in car number 87, the junior driver supported by Sicily Motorsport and running with Jam Sport in that machine. I guess Sid Smith having a look up the inside of Alex Lee, squeezes up past him into the Murray's corner, completely outbrakes himself, back up the inside with Alex Lee, and through he goes. So that was the energetic first lap, wasn't it? Plenty going on in this first talk. We've still got quite a bit to go as they come down the pit straight. So Fairclough leads, Brickley second, Maynard's up to third, fourth is now Alex Lee, fifth is now Sid Smith, sixth is Harry Garman, seventh now is going to be, that is seventh to cross the line. I think we missing. I hate to say it, we're missing James Pope, which is, if we are, that's a real shame. So we've got seventh for Daniel Lewis, eighth for George Davis, ninth for Joseph Knight from the back of the grid, 10th for James Wallace after the contact he had earlier on, 11th for Alex Sprange, 12th is Archie Handy. In the pit lane is Albert Webster. And sadly, he's had some problems after his contact he had earlier on, had at the Agostini hairpin. And I think we're missing one more car in that order as well. I'm trying to look at the order we've got here, and I think maybe we are. Shame if it is. I think this race has also been shortened to 10 minutes rather than 15, because we've got 4 minutes to go in this one. So maybe that's why they're getting a bit more rushed in terms of trying to take positions, because that was certainly quite a frenetic start to things. And Sid Smith almost gets shown the edge of the road there by Alex Lee as they come out of it. There's Albert Webster's in the pit lane after his contact there with up at the Agostini hairpin when he collected both Alex Lee and then James Wallace. So James, of course, back in 10th position, a little bit further back than where he should have been. Jensen Brickley, meanwhile, after that start, was actually the first. And there's James Pope. We'll talk about advanced aerodynamics. That will certainly will be helping. Might not be helping him too much in terms of the airflow, but at least he's got an extra rear wing. I'm not sure that's quite allowed in the regulations, but James Pope though carries on with the rear tailgates up in the air, so that will certainly be helping in terms of rear end grip. But I think nothing much more. That's a shame, because he was running so high up as 4th position, and then all of a sudden the fortune didn't really go against it. Didn't go well. He ran wide here at the exit of Brunswick Nelson, and then whatever happened after that, I'm guessing possibly on the exit of Coram or through into Murray somewhere, but he's dropped him down to 13th position, so that's a shame. But trying to make up positions. There's Dan Lewis, who goes a little wide and just picks up a little bit of standing water on the curb on the exit of the right-hander at Nelson. So I think they're going to get, apart from the end of this lap, possibly, I think, maybe one more, because again, it's a shortened race being 15 minutes, so they're going to get 4 laps here in this race. I think it's done just so they can make sure they can get the Club Sport Trophy race underway with enough time to be able to meet the curfew. So that's the only reason why. Otherwise, it probably would have been cut short and wouldn't have been 45 minutes. So James Pope carries on then, still with the boot lid sticking up fully on the back of that car. I think what's happened is maybe he's had a tag from somebody behind that's probably dislodged the pins at the back of the boot lid, which keeps it held down during the race. So because of that, it's dislodged one of them, and the pressure might have possibly gone ahead and forced it up again. So I know it's been quite an exciting race so far, but last lap brought it out already, because it is a shortened race of just 10 minutes. Sid Smith loses the position he just gained on Alex Lee, so that's been back down to 4th. But still, the top 2 in the championship so far, battling away between Deegan Fairclough and Jensen Brickley. 3rd is now Jake Maynard. 4th is going to be Alex Lee at the moment from Sid Smith. Jake Maynard, meanwhile, I should mention, hasn't had a podium so far yet in the Fiesta Junior Championship. He came into the weekend 3rd in the points, having only scored a best result of 4th or 5th. So a podium for him will certainly be quite a just reward for his hard work over the last couple of opening weekends at Croft and then at Alton Park. But weather certainly favouring the main championship contenders as Deegan Fairclough turns his way out of Agostini for what will be the final time. With just over half a lap to go, he looks though he's on course to pick up the 3rd win of 4 this weekend at Snetterton. It really has been his circuit, hasn't it? And particularly, come rain or come shine, he seems to be quite the man to beat so far. He heads now into Oggies for one last time. And quick check on the rest of the top 10 outside that top 5. 6th is Harry Garman. That'll be one of his best results of the year. Daniel Lewis is up to 7th. George Davis 8th. Joseph Knight will be happy with 9th. Had started at the back in 14th, up 5 places where he originally started. And it's James Wallace after the contact. I'm sure he would have been hoping for a lot more than that, being contention for the victory or at least a podium, but 10th place is all he can manage at the moment. So P10 for him. And it's Alex Sprain, followed by Archie Handy, and then James Pope, who's I presume still carried on despite the fact that the tailgate is fully up on that number 47 car. But that's something to watch out for, because James has made a lot of progress this weekend, and he been up there in the top 10 quite regularly. And I'd always heard that he'd been quite a prominent wet weather driver, particularly from his days in karting. So I think his nickname is Seaweed, not my choosing. It's somebody else's nickname is Seaweed. So and simply because he seems to be just that good in the wet conditions, seems to just obviously anytime he's out in the wet, he just seems to stick to the road, I'm guessing. So hopefully we'll see him, if it is wet again, a bit further in the field. As Deegan Fairclough gets a little slideways to the middle through Coram. Hold it together, Deegan. They've got one more corner to go. Heads it through Murray, a little wide over the curve, but he manages to hold on to the position. And again, he has been the man to beat so far. As the sun shines on him and on Snetterton, it's going to be a 3rd win out of 4 this weekend for Deegan Fairclough. Heads up to the checkered flag and completes a triple of race wins here at Snetterton. He takes victory in race 4. From Jensen Brickley 2nd. Jake Maynard gets his first podium, a sprintable line for 4th between Alex Lee and Sid Smith. It's Lee ahead of Smith there. Garman 6th. and Daniel Lewis in 7th place. 8th for George Davis. And then rounding out the top 10, it will be Joseph Knight. He'll be happy with that, salvage a top 10 after his troubles this weekend. And James Wallace, I'm sure, will be quite disappointed with that 10th position. I'm sure he would have been hoping for a bit more than that. But certainly, great for the most part, great racing all round from the Fiesta Juniors. A little bit of a unfortunate incident at Agostini with the 3 cars coming together, but these guys are still learning on the go and learning on their feet, so they're still trying to pick their way through the order. Rest of the cars are going to come through in a second. We've got Alex Sprain, who's going to pick his way through into 11th place through all the mire. 12th place will go to Archie Handy in the distinctive pink and grey number 41. And then the last car we'll have across the line is going to be... last car across the line is going to be James Pope. And the one car we didn't have start that race was Jake Triggs, because of course he had that incident where he had the problem that put him out at the beginning of race 3, the first race of today. So his car pulled up just at the Wilson hairpin, and because of that, unfortunately, it looks as though whatever issue he had has put him out for the rest of the afternoon, sadly. Across the line comes James Pope, whose boot appears to have, I think, has it gone down? Yes, he has, so it's gone down by itself, it looks like. So James Pope's boot does indeed drop, and he goes down to 13th. But I'm pretty sure him being up as high as 4th at one point there shows what we could see in the future from James, particularly in wet weather conditions. So, big thank you to the Fiesta Juniors for some brilliant entertainment. I'm sure they'll certainly sleep on the way home tonight, because they've had quite the busiest weekend they've ever had. 4 races, 7 sessions in total. And again, like I said at the top of the program before the race, if they don't know Snetterton by now, they probably never will. So, out of the cars get our top 3. And Josh will be down there in a moment to have a chat to them. But again, if you want to find out more, if you're a parent of a junior racer who might be coming up to being 14 years old, you can start from 14 years old in these cars. Head to the website, BRSCC.co.uk. I'll tell you more about that in a second, because for the final time for the Fiesta Juniors, let's head down to Park Fermor to have a chat with our 3rd-time race winner here at Snetterton. It is Deegan Fairclough.
So with Deegan Fairclough once again, another win, Deegan. 3 finishes you've had this weekend, you've won every time you finished.
Yeah, I'm so happy with the weekend. Thanks to Jam Sport and Sicily and Mac Tools and Car Gods, they've made it possible, and it's just been a mega weekend. Got a good, well, not an amazing start, but was able to keep a nose in front of James going into turn 1, and then from there managed there was aquaplaning down the back straight, and then yeah, other than that, managed to hold it off. Had a big moment at one point, but yeah, super happy.
First time you've driven the car around here in the wet today. How did you find that?
I mean, yeah, the car was a little bit rear end happy, and then understeer mid corner, but nothing we could do about that. And yeah, just happy that I got another win.
And obviously, it's been a good weekend for you. What are your future ambitions?
One day, hopefully, touring car. Luckily, with a touring car team that's backing me, and a load of people that are helping along the way. Hopefully can get into touring car or GT one day.
Good luck with all that. Yeah. Well done this weekend. Great driving by Deegan Fairclough. 2nd place was Jensen Brickley. Meet you for the 4th time, Jensen. Well done. Another podium.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do it without JBS Commercials and 2010 Racing, so yeah, thanks to them.
And that particular race, tricky conditions?
Yeah, it was tricky conditions. I was just trying not to push it too hard. I knew I needed a second to stay ahead in the championship, so yeah. I think I could have had him at one point, but I just didn't want to go off. There's no point wasting the championship.
Yeah, obviously, this weekend it would have been about building them points. You may not have won any of the races, but you're the only person that's got all 4 podiums.
Yeah, I won the 2nd race yesterday, and then at 2 thirds and a 2nd. It's an alright weekend, really, isn't it?
What's next for the championship?
It is Cadwell.
So that's a very different circuit to get used to.
Yeah, it's technical. I've been there before last year, and I've done a test there this year, so hopefully we'll be alright there.
Well done on 2nd place, and for the first time on the podium this weekend was Jake Maynard. Well done on 3rd place. So do you like these wet conditions?
Yeah, definitely like the wet. It's fun getting the car out there. Definitely shows, well, driver talent at the end of the day, and it's nice out there getting the car sideways, getting it forward. Yeah, it's a good race.
So good. It's a busy weekend for you, having 4 races. So a great way to end the day for the journey home with a podium and a trophy.
Definitely looking forward to the next meeting now.
Cadwell Park next, which is a very different type of track. Have you been there before?
Never been there.
Are you looking forward to it?
Definitely. It looks very technical, which is what I love. So.
Well, good luck with that. Well done. So 3rd place Jake Maynard, 2nd Jensen Brickley, and Deegan Fairclough the win, and the 4th of 4 Fiesta Junior Championship races today this weekend.